I'm going to start by making some assumptions about you. You consider yourself to be a creative person, and maybe people even refer to you as that. You procrastinate making your art or feel bad about even calling yourself an artist. You feel guilty when you buy new art supplies, or you call it treating yourself when you do that. You feel like you have a lot of things to say, but you don't have a huge following or audience. You haven't been traditionally published, so you feel silly for dreaming bigger than your current circumstances. And if any of that is true, then chances are this book is for you. Hi, I'm Josie and I'm an illustrator. I'm based in Sweden. I live in Malmö. All of these things were things that I thought about myself just earlier this year. I felt silly for making videos that potentially no one was going to see, videos about my interests, videos about creativity, and I felt really guilty about having an art channel when in reality I had had an art block and hadn't painted or made art in a year. I'm going to be covered in these like little seed things. And yeah, you're probably going to sway a little bit, so I hope you don't get seasick, really windy. I came across Amie McNee on Instagram. Her account is called Inspired to Write, and she shares these like hand-painted messages, like bite-sized pep talks about creativity, about making art, about being an artist, doubt and fear and procrastination.
In a society that profits from you being stuck on your phone, giving your attention to art is a rebellious act.
And she shared her struggles, which were very relatable, and her successes, and also was very transparent about, like, yes, this is success in the traditional sense of the word, but this was what was going on, like, behind the scenes. What struck me was that she was very raw, very honest. So this was like maybe late March, April that I came across her account. Through her account, I realized that she had published a book that was called We Need Your Art. I followed a lot of the promotion around the book and her discussing like the book, the release and everything behind the scenes, which was very interesting as someone who writes casually and has dreamed about publishing or self-publishing. And actually, her talking about self-publishing made me feel less, I don't want to say lame, but like I definitely have felt like that's not as noble as traditional publishing, which is silly, but we're going to get into that later. It took another month before I actually decided to order a copy. An interesting thing that had happened in that time, in late April, I started breaking out of my art block. And it's really difficult to like pinpoint exactly what it was. I was just like, why are you holding yourself back? Basically, I started experimenting. That was one of the big things for me. In May, I started drawing again. I was excited to experiment. Basically, I was very open when this book arrived, when it entered my life. When I started reading it, I felt like it reinforced like the things that I was discovering. Wind incoming. It reinforced a lot of the thoughts that I was having. So anyway, I've been babbling for a while now. What is this book? This is what the book looks like. I'm sitting very close to the camera, but yeah, this is what the book looks like. And then here in the back, you have Amie. The book has these, I'm gonna see if I can find a short one that's easy for you to read. Yeah, here we go. It has those like hand-drawn messages, a pep talk or a mantra or whatever you want to call it. All throughout the book is filled with stuff like that. I'm going to read some for you. Taking small, consistent steps is the journey to creative mastery. If you choose to be an artist, your life will look different from everyone else's, and that is hard. And it's also really beautiful. How to defeat perfectionism, make shitty art, do it every day. I guess from just those few, you get a sense of like the tone of the book. So what I really like about it is that Amie's really carrying you through this book. She's very warm, very comforting to read, but it's just no nonsense. no BS, like in a tough love kind of a way. And I think I really needed that. The book covers all these different aspects of being an artist, being creative, trying to live a creative life, which, if you've been on this channel, I think I've mentioned that about 100 times. That's like my main mission statement for this channel, is to try and live a creative life. It can be big and it can be small, and it can change over time, and you can have periods of more creativity and periods of less creativity. And all of that Amie talks about in like a very no BS but comforting way. So I'm gonna see if I can find the chapter like overview. I don't think you can, but anyway. So Act 1, the case for creativity. Art heals. Act 2 is you are the artist, and it talks about the way you think about yourself, the way you treat yourself, the way you actually own your artistry. Act 3 is about blocks, procrastination, perfectionism, jealousy and comparison, burnout. Act 4 is about building an abundant practice. Voice, self-censorship, finishing, failure, success, patience, celebrating. It's just a very complete, well thought out structure. That's how I feel. And like a lot of her claims, if you will, are founded in statistics, especially in the beginning about how art is viewed as excessive. A lot of us have guilt for wanting to spend time being creative, like how I'm sorry to use the C word, but the capitalist society discourages, self-actualization, self-realization, wants you to be just a cog in the machine. She just does so really brilliantly. And like I said, there's these kind of like reinforcements, like mantras throughout the book that, like with any mantra, the more you read them, the more you start actually, like your mindset starts shifting. You're getting this reinforcement. It's like with CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. You shift your thoughts into more healthy thoughts and discard the thought patterns that don't work for you. And I feel like those kind of little messages sort of work in that way. Two things. Early in the book, in Act 2, wind incoming. In the second act, I hope you can hear me through the wind, there's this artist reset. For anyone who's tried the artist's way, I tried to get into that, I think last year or the year before that, and it just didn't really stick for me. I think I was just in not a bad place mentally, but I was not ready to do that. But I think this is kind of a reinvention of that. It's finding one thing that you can do every day and setting the smallest possible daily goal that you can, so that it actually not only feels doable, but it feels ridiculously doable. Even so, like missing a few days, the point is to like, okay, I missed yesterday, I have time now, not to try and catch up, but to just learn to accept the shortcomings. Or like, oh, I had a sick day yesterday, I needed rest, had a lot of stress at work or whatever. Practicing being kinder to yourself. And so in June, I did this challenge. I set it for 1 week because we had guests and I knew that I was going to be stressed, but I knew that I wanted to try the challenge. And what I did, like the smallest possible goal, was 150 words a day on the weather. And maybe at some point I will read that out loud, but that was literally it. And I wrote it on my commute to work. And I missed a couple days, but I kept going until we had guests arriving. So I did end up doing, I think, 8 days out of obviously 2 weeks, 14 days, but 8 days out of 7. And I was so excited about it. The simplest prompt possible, just look outside the window and like write about how that feels for 150 words or 200 words. I think it was 200 words. And that was it. And then like didn't read it back once I'd finished, once I reached my bus stop. I just kind of closed my phone because I was writing it on my phone. 3 weeks ago, I opened it up and read it and was like, yeah, it's not finished, it's not edited, it's not really going anywhere, but I was impressed. I had some really interesting takes on the weather. Like this is a personal thing now. I think giving things time and to rest so that you're not actively thinking about the project constantly. For me, that's something that seems to really work. It's like I'm not doing all the work, like I'm collaborating with a previous version of myself. And I find that to be really fun, actually. And that way I can dump ideas and return to them and be re-inspired, but having forgotten some of the details that I was focusing on the first time. And I think that's healthy. Anyway, that's just my own side notes. Can you hear that? Every single chapter ends with journal prompts. And I'm going to read just an example for you so that you get an idea. And this is on perfectionism. Question 1. When has perfection or excellence been required of you in the past? And it obviously doesn't have to relate to art even, or your art practice. You want to look at two of the main culprits here. How you were educated, so like what did the school experience look like, and how your parents raised you. Were you in a culture that celebrated achievement above all else? Yes. I think a lot of us are. And yeah, she gives her own example. Went to school where students were ranked from best to worst in performance within each class. Ouch. We didn't have that, but certainly both my parents are academics, and that bled through in a lot of things. I think also because I come from an immigrant background, there is a lot of pressure to do good, do well, show excellence, maybe at a higher degree than the real population or whatever. An outdated thing today maybe, but certainly my grandmother carried that, my mom and her sisters carried that, and I think also my dad, he's not, doesn't talk about that kind of thing, but I think certainly that pressure was put on him, and that kind of thing is handed down. It's not even that they mean well, but yeah. Like I said, every single chapter, there's 3 more questions just on perfectionism that you can write about or you can think about. I didn't write about all of these journal prompts. I think just thinking about them and unpacking things just as well, and you can always return to them. In case you didn't kind of read the vibe already, I really enjoyed this book and I found it really helpful. I talked to my cousin about it, who's a musician. She bought the book. I have a colleague. We bonded over wanting to write more, loving the written word and stuff like that. I work in a library part-time, so that's what we kind of bonded over. And she's a mother of 2. She doesn't give herself a lot of time, or doesn't have a lot of time to create, and I've noticed that she kind of puts her needs second. I put the physical copy on her desk one morning, and within an hour she was like, I read 1 page and then I ordered the book. So, if that's not an endorsement. Also, I started out with the ebook because I have an e-reader, and I bought the ebook and read it on my commute in early May, and then I was like, you know what, actually I think I want to annotate. I want a physical copy, so I've actually bought 2 for myself. And I get that the language may not be for everyone. Amie really manages to balance that warm and comforting, relatable, as well as the kind of tough love, no bullshit thing. And I think for me, I found it to be a really empowering read. And if you follow her on Instagram, if you see her on social media, she very much comes off that way just as a person too. Very warm, very kind, but also absolutely no filter or bullshit, which is really refreshing to me. So yeah, it's a self-help book, and I know with that genre it can be very hit or miss about the language, and also how open you are to the message in the book. I didn't feel like it was particularly woo-woo or anything like that, so it felt really grounded and realistic, while it encourages something that I think a lot of people find unrealistic. It's like with therapy. I've already mentioned cognitive behavioral therapy and like self-development in general. The results of whether things like land are sort of up to you. So yeah, in my art block, I realized that I held myself to extremely high standards. And I had told myself this story about who I was, what kind of artist I was, for over a decade, if not more. This is something that Amie covers in the book, actually, because often we are too strict or too mean, or put way too much pressure on ourselves. So yeah, when I started drawing again in May, that was all play for me. So I had already entered this kind of play experimental mode when I read the book. And Amie talks about creativity as a basic human need. And I think that that's what I had forgotten. And I think a lot of my block was that. It was more about other people. Like my art was more about other people than it was about myself first. I didn't play, I expected everything to be perfect in one go. And that's just not how it works. Art is a process. It's constant edits and additions and, honing. In June, I started feeling this urge to paint more. I'd used to paint a lot with acrylics at university. But because it wasn't my strong medium or my main medium in my mind, this story that I told myself, I neglected it. I stopped doing it. It was taking up time. I felt guilty about not doing the art that I was supposed to make for myself, that was going to be perfect in one sitting and make everyone proud of me. In terms of that perfectionism message, it's not necessarily that anyone told me that it was a waste, but I definitely got hints that it wasn't a viable career. Another breakthrough that I had just this summer, I just mentioned that I've painted a lot in my past. I also really love colored pencils. I spend a lot of time trying to hone the digital art aspect. There's a lot of freedom in that, but I also feel like it's so unlimited that there's a lot of mistakes that can be made, but maybe I'll talk about that at another time. Yeah, going back to these materials that I'd liked but didn't feel like they aligned with the art that I was supposed to make. It sounds so silly when you say it out loud. Yeah, I'd always felt like it's one or the other. It's ink, because I wanted to make comics, so I should use ink, that's what they use, or digital. And colored pencils, acrylic paints, I felt like it was one or the other. I made up all these rules for myself, and then literally last week, not even joking, last week as I'm filming this, I started mixing. And it feels so silly. I even talked to my mom about this. I was like, I've had these stupid ideas about either or. I can't put colored pencils on my acrylic already painted artwork. And she was like, why? I didn't know you felt this way. The reason why I felt confident trying even is because my friend Anita, who I've mentioned several times on this channel, she made a video last month, I think, where she put colored pencils over her watercolor illustration. She mixed mediums. And I think also, and this is just revealing how silly we are, especially or how silly I am, I guess, because she's a much more technically proficient artist than I am, and I look up to her in that sense. Because she did that, it felt like it was okay for me to try it. Sometimes we need these kind of role models, I guess, or friends, but I think it's also really important to question these rules that you set for yourself. And I think Amie has a lot of more material in that regard, a lot more pep talks. So yeah, I'm working on being kinder with myself, because it's supposed to be enjoyable. When we are able to let loose and not judge ourselves, that's when you remove your blocks. It's literally in the book about blocks. So yeah, when we unblock ourselves and when we play and we are kinder to ourselves, that's when we make better art. That's when we improve and we truly come up with original ideas. We're not confined by these strict should-bes. And yeah, I just think this book comes at a really important time, a critical time. Yeah, just to touch on the title of the book, We Need Your Art. Art is an actual need. Art programs have been proven to improve a population's happiness levels and stress levels. Places that have a lot of art programs, and especially extracurricular art, generally have better results in general for the students. in their schools. Crime rates go down. There's all kinds of statistics on this. But also, we need your art because diversity is important. Representation is important. We need a variety of art and expressions. Art moves people, creates empathy, helps build empathy. Art has even moved legislation in the past. It moves society forward. Fuck, I'm getting emotional. And yeah, whenever you think, oh, it's been done, why should I? Yes, it's been done, but not by you. Your side of things, your experiences, hasn't informed this area. Like, whatever excuse it is you're telling yourself that your thoughts or your art is frivolous or whatever, it's not true. But yeah, most of all, in these times of AI slop, making online content and culture even more homogeneous. So we need your art, handmade and based in actual, real human experiences. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please comment or even just press like, because it actually really helps me out to know what kinds of videos I should spend more time making. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, this video is a little bit slapdash. Is that a word? I don't know. I'm not a fluent English speaker, but we've been doing a renovation at home, a much needed update of our very old bathroom where the tiles were falling off. And so I've been a little bit stressed. I haven't been able to work from home. I still hope that you liked this video. I very much enjoyed the book and I recommend finding Amie. She also has a YouTube channel. I think it's also called Inspired to Write. I will put it somewhere on the screen. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And I hope to see you back here soon. Take care.